those of us who advocate for a healthy lifestyle, a healthy way of life and healthy eating, are often talking to and with people whose choices, whose way of life are not consistent with the world we'd like to see. And we are challenged each time. Are we befriending their highest potential? Or are we dividing and separating in our own minds? Because if we're doing it in our minds, if we're judging in our minds, they're going to pick it up. If we're carrying negativity, and that's the basic energy of our communication, if we're only talking about what we don't want and not helping people, welcoming them, honoring them, celebrating them, helping them to take the positive next step and the next one and the next one, then we're not really honoring our mission. We're not really fulfilling our potential as activists and as communicators and as representatives of what we're about: compassion, healing, and caring. So I wrote this book, and it became Healthy at 100. And while I was writing it, one of my impulses was that I've seen people make many different choices in their lives and have many different kinds of outcomes. And I've seen that as you get older, and by the way, every one of us is getting older each day. Aging doesn't just start at 65. As you get older, the consequences of the choices that you have made and are making and will make start to take form. They start to materialize. They start to translate into your experience of your body and your sense of yourself and your well-being or not, your wellness or your illness. And you can get away with certain things for a time, but over the years it adds up. So the baby boomer generation, this group of which I am a member, folks, roughly it's defined as people born between 1945 and 1960. It's a large number of people barreling now towards their elderhood and beginning to be really concerned about how they are aging. I think we should all be concerned about how we are living and what we are creating and what will be the outcome of how we are living. And what I've seen is that some people end up in their older years bitter and defeated and pessimistic and cynical and suffering a tremendous amount. Cognitively impaired, physically their function is greatly diminished. There's chronic diseases that are rampant in our society that don't have to occur. And on the other hand, there are folks who have made different choices, and in their elder years, they're vital, they're vibrant, they have something to offer and to contribute. They're alive, they're glad they're alive. Instead of degenerating, they're celebrating. And that is what I wish for each of us. Wisdom years, richly earned, treasured, filled with well-being, grace, consciousness, and beauty. That is really a human possibility. That is not pie in the sky. That is not a romanticized impossibility. And in Healthy at 100, what I do is I profile 4 societies which have been renowned for their healthy aging, for their longevity, but not just the length of their years, the quality of their years, the health of their elders. 3 of those societies were profiled and came to public attention originally in the 1970s when National Geographic did a series of very, very influential articles about these societies. And the 4th is Okinawa, which has become very well known lately, thanks to a very fine study called the Okinawan Centenarian Study. Centenarians are people who live to 100 or beyond. That's been going on for about 30 years, and it's very, very well documented. The rigor of the science is excellent, and the findings are impressive. So I've looked at these cultures because if you just look at one, say if you just look at Okinawa, it's very hard to disentangle what is the secret, what is the key principle, what is it about the culture of the people, the lifestyle that's cardinal to the wonderful outcomes and the healthy elderhoods that people are experiencing. But if you have four, and they're at different latitudes and different altitudes and different parts of the world, and then if you can see what they have in common, and then you can start to understand what are the real factors, what are the primary factors, and then you can look at how do you translate into our lives here in the Western world, here in California, here in the United States, here in the industrialized and industrializing world. And that's what Healthy at 100 is about. One of the things that I discovered is that these cultures are, in their diets, very similar. Not identical, not exact, there's differences, but remarkable similarities, including the fact that they get almost all, if not all, of their protein from plants, from veg sources. And they get their fats from seeds and nuts, avocados if they're in a location where those can be grown, rather than from bottled oils. They eat what by our standards is a very low-calorie diet, though they get more nutrition than we as a whole collectively do because every calorie in their diet counts. They don't eat any processed foods. There's nothing like high fructose corn syrup. There's no trans fats. There's no junk. There's no processed or adulterated or refined foods. There's no artificial chemicals in their foods. It's wholesome, it's natural, it's close to the earth. It's the way nature intends. And so they don't have to eat a whole lot. I think one of the things that's happening in our society is that people as a whole are eating such junky diets. Thank you, Jeff. That their cells are starving. The food has so little nutritional value that though their caloric intake is high, and it begins to show, they're still hungry because the cells aren't getting what they need for optimum functioning to do their jobs at a metabolic level. So this is one of the reasons that people then eat and feel the desire, the craving, unable to control that reaching for it. It's the chips, the whatever. There are other reasons too, but it's one of them. And it's one where we can get a handle on it, because if you eat an optimum nutrition low-calorie diet, low-calorie by our cultural standards, your cells are well fed. And then you function with joy, with vitality. You're happy and healthy and alive because you're not taking on a bunch of junk, carrying it around with you, packing it into your liver and your kidneys, corroding your arteries, and diminishing your joy in life. To me, seeing that commonality of these cultures that I've described about their diets was very insightful, because it gave me a clue. And now, I've been speaking about Healthy at 100 now. It's been out a week only, but it's already been getting a great deal of press. And I have been asked by some in the press, well, you've long been an advocate for a vegetarian way of life. How do you know that that didn't blind you or color your perceptions of these peoples? How do you know that you're not just seeing what you wanted to see or you're already built into your belief system? And what I usually do in answering that is I talk about a National Geographic that came out in December of last year, which looked at 3 cultures, including Okinawa, that are renowned today for their healthy aging and their long life. And at the end of that article, National Geographic summed up what had been learned, what was being learned from the study of these cultures, in 2 words: go vegetarian. So if National Geographic is part of the conspiracy, so be it.